All right, well, Dr. Gordon Linda coming at you from Southeastern Fertility. It's Facebook Friday. You want to sing a theme song?
It's Facebook Friday. Go closer.
That was quick. All right, well, moving right up. Sometimes those theme songs get truncated, as the important information.
As the camera gets
That's right,
closer.
that's right. Well, we are waving our flags, right, to show our support of veterans, because it is Veterans Day, right?
Yes.
It is Veterans
It is
Day.
Veterans Day.
It is Veterans Day. And I thought I'd tell a little story about, actually, a veteran, and that is, so my dad, actually, Dr. Edward Theodore Gordon, veteran. Okay,
Sure.
so my dad actually enrolled in the V12 program. So he went to Tufts undergrad and Tufts Medical School, and the military paid for his medical school education. And the idea is that he would then pay back the years that he had gotten. So it was great. He came from a very poor background, and he really had no money. I mean, he used to tell us that they had so little money that he would eat lettuce sandwiches because he had no money to even buy luncheon meat. But then my Uncle Dave said, actually, your dad wanted the money to buy the chocolate cake. So he could have actually gotten the luncheon meat, but he chose instead to eat the lettuce sandwich and have the chocolate cake.
That's
So,
the way he thinks.
yeah, you do learn
We
something
used
about
to
your
call
family,
those
right?
wish
Exactly, exactly.
I wish they had something.
Wish you had
between
something in
the
between, right? So anyway, so he signed up, and that was a huge thing, right? So they paid for everything, and it was interesting. So when he was in medical school, so he was undergrad at Tufts in 44, graduated medical school in 47. So he was in medical school during the war, and they made it clear that the bottom 20% of the medical school class would immediately be eligible for service to their country. My dad was very inspired by that. Graduated #1 in his class.
Wow,
Scored the
Impressive.
highest national board scores in the entire country.
that's impressive.
Yeah, he was impressed.
Very
Yeah.
impressive.
So, but he was one to serve, and his brothers actually also served. Uncle Dave, Uncle Nat. Uncle Dave was a dentist, and he actually served in the campaign through North Africa. And they landed on the beaches there, and he went through. I think it was with the 1st Infantry with the Big Red One. And he and my Uncle Nat were together during that time. So my dad then started out doing internal medicine, decided it was not for him, transferred to general surgery, and went to University of Minnesota under Owen Wangenstein, who was a very famous general surgeon. Well, then it was the late 40s, and all the medical staff was coming back from the theaters in Europe because the war was over.
Right.
And so my dad got the call saying, all right, it's time for you to go ahead and start giving back your service. He had 1 year of service and training.
Mhm.
And so they assigned him, I think, to Portsmouth Naval Hospital, and he's like, listen, I've grown up on the East Coast, I want to see the world, I want to go to Europe. So Dr. Wangenstein, one of his former residents, was head of procurement for the armed forces. So he said, here's the guy's name, gave it to my dad, said, go to DC, and he'll get you sorted. So they drove all the way to Washington, DC from Minnesota. They went into the Pentagon, and it was just like you see it on these movies, right? There was this big map of like the world, okay? And it was like these little flags where they had needs for medical staff. And so he said, okay, surgery, where do you want to go? My dad's like, Europe. He said, okay, Europe, surgery. 7th Army Hospital, Trieste, Italy. That's where you're going. My dad said, sir, there's only one problem, Navy. He said, not anymore, you're not. You're Army now. And so that was it. Boom, change of service. So my dad then became, suddenly was Army. So, he went out. My mom was waiting outside the Pentagon in the car. And he went out and he said, Claire, we're going to Trieste. My mother started crying. And she said, I don't want to go to Africa. And my dad said, it's not in Africa. She said, well, where is it then? He goes, well, I don't know where it is, but it's definitely not Africa. Okay? So it's actually near the Balkans. So it's actually the northern part of Italy, sort of near the Balkans. So they had a wonderful time in Italy, and they actually went over to Switzerland on break, and this is my parents. My dad looking sharp in his Army uniform and his fancy coat, and they want him to stay, actually. So after 1 year of training, he was chief of surgery at the Army Hospital in Trieste.
Wow.
1 year of training.
Wow.
1 year.
Look at your genes. That's amazing.
Right, And one of his greatest contributions was the general's dog was hit by a transport vehicle, the general's favorite dog, okay? And the call went out, does anybody on base have any experience with dogs? Because they didn't have a veterinarian there. My dad had worked in the dog research lab under Wangenstein in Minnesota. My dad says, well, I have some experience with dogs, and so they called him out. He saved the dog's life.
Yay.
So he had a letter of commendation from the general for saving that dog's life. And that went on his wall. In his
That's
office,
awesome.
he had the commendation letter like for as long as he was in practice.
That is awesome.
Yep. So anyway, so they loved their time in Europe. He loved being a veteran. He actually ended his career working at the VA hospital in the outpatient center. And he actually had at his funeral in 2013, actually had an honor guard, the flag, great cast, and all that. And my daughter is currently deployed in Soviet Georgia, and she was inspired by my dad's service, and so we did not have much of a history of medical family, but she is currently deployed there in the construction battalion as a CB, which is the naval equivalent of sort of the Army Corps of Engineers. She's Naval Academy and all that. So we still are maintaining that. So we are thankful for our veterans.
Yes,
Certainly in my own family, we have the example of my dad, my two uncles, my daughter for their service, and it's hard being a military family. It's hard. She is deployed over there, and Georgia is a poor country. They're very nice to the Americans. They have like dump Putin bumper stickers on cars, which is, you just,
That's
you
funny.
wouldn't think you'd see something like that, but they do that. So anyway,
Not so many years ago.
not so
you
many,
wouldn't have.
not so many. So anyway, so we do appreciate all of our veterans, and we appreciate all the service they provide to their country. It's difficult to not know when you're going to get the call and what your next step is. And so, in fact, when they called my dad and said, "Okay, you're ready to go, time to go to Trieste," and my mother said, "There's just no way. 3 days. I can't pack to go to Europe in 3 days." And so she called the Pentagon, and she got the general on the line. She said, "This is outrageous. There is no way that Claire Gordon, can be ready to go to Europe in like 3 or 5 days." And he's like, "Madam, if you are not at that Army Air Base at this time, you're not going to Europe. So get your butt there." And my mother, who usually was not cowed by much, she was cowed by that. So, and besides, she could always say, "Well, Ted, I forgot this. We have to go to Paris and go shopping, right? We have to do shopping." So anyway, so yes, so chief of surgery, 1 year.
That's awesome.
That's right. So, and everything around. Now here, we have more experience in 1 year, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
So I think that's, is there
Much,
any
much
connection to anything here at Southeastern from my little vignette and telling you about my dad and my daughter? No. Yes, there are. So experience does matter, and I think that's the thing is like having seen that, and being through, my 26 years in practice. Dr. Keenan is more than 26 years in practice. I think it's really helpful, right, to have that experience, to be able to think through. And there's no substitute for real world experience.
No.
So, yeah, and again, Sarah has just outstanding embryology experience and has been to, worked in different laboratories. So I think that's, experience does matter. There is no substitute for that. So, although my dad was over there with 1 year of training to be chief of surgery, I tell you that as medical director of Southeastern, I definitely have more than 1 year of training. So you can rest assured that there's more than 1 year.
Right.
And you, Ms. Linda, have more than 1 year as an IVF nurse too.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. You do.
I did.
You do. And for that's right.
Seven,
That's right.
eight,
Something like that.
Lost
And
count.
yeah, that's right. And Megan is off now on maternity leave.
Yes.
So just for those, and Lauren has stepped in, and Lauren has unbelievable depth of experience in terms of
Way more than me.
way more than you. Okay, and in fact, Lauren was one of my nurses back in 1996 to 1999 when I was at Long Island IVF.
And I was still in oncology nursing.
That's right. That's right. And so Lauren and I have that history
Yeah.
going way back.
That's great.
And I had more hair, and I weighed less. And you
I'm
was,
not even half by the way. Starting together.
That's right. But again, I think that, experience does matter, and I think that that's, and when it comes down to the embryo adoption program, nobody has more experience than we do, right? We do more cycles than anyone else in the entire world, right? So I think that, and I think that in terms of the mini stem and natural cycle, we have a huge depth of experience. I mean, we're in Knoxville, Tennessee. You don't have to go that far looking for that experience, right?
That's true.
That's right.
And I've had some patients come in and say, I just can't believe that this was here all this time and I didn't know it. And I thought I was gonna have to travel to get this treatment.
That's right. Well, I didn't know. I mean, I'd never been to Knoxville. I didn't know anything about Knoxville. I didn't know anything about Tennessee. And now I do.
Yes.
That's right.
They can even talk the talk now.
That's right. Because those wise men came from afar.
That's right.
That's right. Afar. Mark
I heard the joke the
Remember
other.
that joke?
Yes, I managed to catch it.
That's right. That's right. The joke was why in the town display did the three wise men have fireman's hats on?
Because
They came from afar. It said right there in the Bible. Came from afar. That's right. Well, we hope that you don't have to come from afar, but if you do come from afar, we're happy to help you.
We'll be glad to have you.
That's right. We're glad to have you too. But if you live nearby, we're happy to have you as well.
The bank would just say, we'll treat you in every way, so many ways, one of them bound to be one you like.
That's right. And a broken clock is right twice.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, well, anyway, so happy Veterans Day to those who are serving. We want to thank you for your service, and we know that you are supported here, and we do appreciate your sacrifices that you make for your families too, and for the families.
Yes.
I mean,
Freedom
it is-
is not free for families or the veterans.
That's right. Freedom's not free. That's what my daughter said when her basketball
It's
coach was
true.
hassling her that she was having to go and do her interviews for her congressional appointment, and he was like, "Well, I just can't believe you keep missing practice, Leah." And she she wrote like, "Freedom is not free."
I love that girl.
It was good. But, all right. Well, anyway, y'all have a great weekend. It's a little rainy here in East Tennessee, but maybe sunshine is coming soon.
I will.
If it doesn't, well, we're working anyways.
Yeah, right.
All right. Y'all take care and see you next week.
See you next week.